Yep, that's the one. Okay. We talked about the Ukrainian soldier, a former soldier, that was giving a standing ovation in the Canadian Parliament recently. And we're going to get into the update about that in just a second. And then, of course, the backlash that came after that when it was revealed that he was actually a Nazi, right? Like that was like, everyone was like, whoa, whoa, what's happening here? Well, the Gray Zone actually confronted AOC about this recently to get her opinion. How did she feel about that? And I think this is very telling. And I'm going to say this because pay close attention to what she says here. And then I want you to compare it to what she said when she was at that climate march in New York City about protecting certain groups of people. So listen to this video here. Again, this is the Gray Zone confronting AOC, asking her about the Ukrainian soldier, the former soldier that gave that was applauded in the Canadian Parliament.
I catch you at the late break on the same topic?
Sure, yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Quick comment for the Gray Zone. Were you concerned last week when President Zelensky in Ukraine gave a standing ovation for an ex-Nazi war veteran in Canada?
Well, I mean, I think any situation like that,
It is concerning.
Thank you.
You see that?
I catch you at the late break on the same
for
topic?
sure, yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Quick comment for the Gray Zone. Were you concerned last week when President Zelensky in Ukraine gave a standing ovation for an ex-Nazi war veteran in Canada?
Well, I mean, I think any situation like that.
See, now she got to go. She got to go. See?
It is concerning.
Thank you.
See, when you mention Ukraine, that's a red flag. No, don't talk about that. Don't talk about that. Right? But it was just, over a week ago where she spoke at the climate march in New York City. And she said that we have to look out for indigenous groups and African Americans and our Hispanic Americans. You know, when she gave that like Baptist sermon preach thing that she was doing up there. Remember she said that? Not when it comes to Nazis, though, right? This just goes to show you how they're all full of shit. Now, what was also interesting is Chrystia Freeland. Look at the way that she responds when she's pressed about this particular issue. Everybody's nervous and, I don't believe for one bit that these people were not aware of who this guy actually was. But here we are. Now watch this. This is coming from Make Israel Palestine again. It's illuminating to witness just how nervous Chrystia Freeland got when a journalist asked if Canada should reopen an investigation into their Nazi war criminals living in the country. She's nervous because a real investigation would impact her family and the UCC. Watch this and pay attention to her hands.
There are calls by B'nai B'rith to reopen a report by the Deschênes Commission so that Canadians can know how many veterans who fought with the Nazis are here in our country. Will the government do so? And what is your response to that?
You see the hand movements? Nervous?
I think, let me just start by reiterating, and I don't think it can be said too many times, how hurtful for so many people in Canada and around the world what happened was and has been and continues to be. As MPs, in our capacity as MPs, it's important for appropriate next steps in the House to be taken. And I think that is our immediate focus.
Very nervous. You see the clasping of the hands, the constant, what do people, have you ever seen people squeeze their hands before? Have you guys ever seen people do they squeeze their, usually the, usually it's not a positive thing. If you're squeezing something, right, that means there's some type of stress or tension that is present. So pay attention to that.
And as a government, we're going to be very thoughtful about any further steps that need to be taken.
Mm-hmm. Now look at the hands again, because I want to show you something right here. See, look at the hands, right? Have you guys ever seen those stress balls? Right. So my teacher used to have these in class. They're little balls and you're supposed to squeeze them. It's supposed to like relieve the stress and stuff like that. So technically what they would say is like squeezing, right? That's supposed to relieve something, right? If you take your hands, you pick up something, you squeeze it, that's supposed to release like some type of tension or stress. So I thought that was interesting. She looked very nervous there. Like she didn't look confident in what she was saying, but the nonverbal behavior I think is important because then it kind of shows you how they really feel versus what they're saying, right? Now, the Speaker of the Canadian Parliament actually did resign, Anthony Rota, and I want you to see his speech. He did resign because of this catastrophe that happened. And people are now asking, should Justin Trudeau resign as well? So let's get into his speech first. And here we go.
Have your attention, order. It's with a heavy heart that I rise to inform members of my resignation as Speaker of the House of Commons. It has been my greatest honor as a parliamentarian to have been elected by you, my peers, to serve as the Speaker of the House of Commons for the 43rd and 44th Parliament. I have acted as your humble servant of this House, carrying out the important responsibilities of this position to the very best of my abilities. Je tiens à vous remercier.
I would like to thank you, my colleagues, for your support and for your collegiality during my term as Speaker.
This House is above any of us. Therefore, I must step down as your Speaker. I reiterate my profound regret for my error in recognizing an individual in the House during the joint address to Parliament of President Zelensky. That public recognition has caused pain to individuals and communities, including the Jewish community in Canada and around the world, in addition to survivors of Nazi atrocities in Poland, among other nations. I accept full responsibility for my actions. My resignation is effective at the end of the sitting day tomorrow, Wednesday, September 27th, to allow preparations for the election of a new Speaker. Until that time, the Deputy Speakers will chair the House proceedings. Thank you. Merci.
So that was that. So he did, take the opportunity to resign, which I think is the right thing to do. Justin Trudeau, however, I don't know if he'll be willing to do the same thing, but there are calls for him to resign. I want to go ahead and get into this clip here from Sky News.
The Speaker of Canada's House of Commons has resigned less than a week after praising a Ukrainian man who served in a Nazi unit during World War II. Anthony Rota praised Yaroslav Hunka as a hero last week while recognising a number of Ukrainian Canadians. The group was given a standing ovation in Parliament during a visit from the President Volodymyr Zelensky. Mr. Rota apologised for the incident after a Jewish human rights group found the 98-year-old served as a member of the 14th Waffen Grenadier Division of the SS.
I reiterate my profound regret for my error in recognizing an individual in the House during the joint address to Parliament of President Zelensky. That public recognition has caused pain to individuals and communities, including the Jewish community in Canada and around the world, in addition to survivors of Nazi atrocities in Poland, among other nations.
I just wanted to mute that part there because of the music. And then we're just going to fast forward through all of that jazz. There we go. So he took full responsibility there. I'm sorry, I just want to, here we go. This part right here.
Deeply embarrassing for the House and for Canada. It is a good thing that Speaker Rota apologized personally, and I'm sure he's reflecting now on how to ensure the dignity of the House going forward.
Do you mean resign?
I know that House leaders are going to be meeting later this morning, and I'm sure they'll have very important
Some people would say that Justin Trudeau should have resigned after the Canadian trucker protests, the way that he treated them, like threatening to go after their bank accounts and things like that. But this by far, I think, is very damning. And then there's this piece here. Social media users on X, however, accused Trudeau of allowing Speaker Rota to take the fall for what they suggest was his responsibility. Remember, it is Justin Trudeau's office that is supposed to vet and approve those guests. So this isn't something I think he should just sit there and just wash his hands clean of it. I think he's just as responsible. And I think there should be some type of accountability for Justin Trudeau as well. But I don't think that Trudeau would be willing to step down. And then here's one of the things here from Clandestine. Canadian Speaker of the House, Anthony Rota, has resigned in wake of the Nazi scandal. Rota will take the fall to save face for Trudeau. However, this is not one person's fault. Many hands went into the vetting process. This was not an accident. And that's something a lot of people see. It's like, dude, come on. You mean to tell me this passed through this many hands and nobody picked up on this? So there are a couple of people. Casey here said, my 2 cents on the resignation of House of Commons Speaker, Canada's reputation at stake. The House of Commons Speaker, Anthony Rota, resigns. I'm still waiting for the media and political pundits to be serious to call for the resignation of the Prime Minister. And that's Trudeau. But I think he has too much pride to resign, which is telling within itself. Now, oopsie, Swan goes on to say, Rota's resignation, while warranted, reeks of political maneuvering. He's thrown under the bus to deflect from Trudeau's responsibility. Leadership, ? More like convenient scapegoating. The entire vetting process is flawed, not just one man's decision. True accountability must start at the top. Well said, Big Papa Swan. Big Papa Swan. It comes after Canadian opposition leader Pierre Poilievre called for Trudeau's apology on Sunday and held him responsible for the incident. So let's all remember, he was pushed to apologize. It's not like Trudeau just said, oh, this is messed up, I'm gonna go out there and apologize. He was pushed to do so. He argued this was an appalling error in judgment that no other parliamentarians had a chance to vet Hunka's past except Trudeau. So yeah, people are calling for it. And honestly, like, can you blame them?